an out-of-the-box thinker, where chances are they probably hear a lot at school, "You're lazy. Would you just pay attention? Please do your work and turn it in." Now, all of these negative statements that kids are hearing during the school day are really having an impact on them. And we are lucky today because our guest, Seth Perler, is the most perfect person to give us practical tips on how we as parents can help our kids out. And so if you are new to the show, I am Charmaine Tanner. I am a parent, a retired teacher, author of The Art of Advocacy, and host of our weekly Thursday show here. So let me bring Seth on with us. And so, Seth, I know that you are like super, super busy because you have this wonderful 3-day free online summit coming up for parents. So
tomorrow, yep.
Yep, I know. So let's go ahead, and if there's something that you want to share with parents about yourself, and then we can start. We'll talk a little bit about the summit and then get into some tips.
Cool. All right. So where should we start?
So do you want to share anything about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Seth Perler. I'm an executive function coach in Colorado, and I help struggling students navigate this thing called education. And these are students who struggle with organization, time management, prioritization, and they're often, they have late, missing, incomplete homework. They're not studying. They just really don't know how to do school. And so this has to do with something called executive function. So I help students navigate that. And I was a student who struggled with this myself. And then I ended up becoming a teacher for 12 years and becoming a coach in 2010 and blogging about it. I make a lot of YouTube videos about it. And I really want to get the word out to the world and as many families as possible about what executive function is, because there's so many misunderstandings about it. And a lot of kids are suffering when they don't need to, because if we have better tools and better understanding about what's really going on, then we don't say the type of messages that you mentioned at the beginning of the call.
Right, exactly. And I do have a slide with a link, and I'll also put it in our comments here. But Seth, do you want to talk a little bit about this online summit that's totally free, that starts tomorrow morning and goes Saturday and Sunday?
Yep. So I wanted the world to know more about this. I've been dreaming about this for a long time. And finally, I did it this year. And I got about 23 speakers who will talk all about executive function for 3 days in a row. And my recommendation is that it's for parents, not for teachers. Teachers can go, but we made this just for you parents. And my recommendation is to do as much of it as you can in the 3 days that as possible, as humanly possible, and really just saturate yourself in these ideas from these experts. And you will walk away from this weekend having a much better understanding of how you can help your child navigate this really complicated stuff. So you just click the link there, executivefunctionsummit.com/ref/33. And that'll bring you to the site and you can look at it, see if you like it. I'm sure you will, because it's amazing. We have put so much heart and soul into this. And then we will be starting tomorrow, Friday at 8 a.m. You can join anytime. But you'll have 24 hours for the first 8 speakers. Then Saturday you have 8 different ones, and Sunday you have 8 different ones. So, and you can just saturate yourself in these ideas that will help your life and help you help your child.
And yeah, I'm so looking forward to it because there's going to be so many different speakers, and it will be just like an immersion for folks. And you do have 24 hours to watch the video. So, over the weekend, you can have a binge, right? Instead of Netflix, you can do this online summit. And so I was talking to Seth about, we're going to have on, that are, have kiddos from different ages. So if you're watching us live or in the replay, type in how old your child is. But one of the things that I thought we could give you a tip right away is something that applies to all ages, right? Your child has a backpack, they get papers home, they get notes from the teacher, sometimes Friday folders, they might have a planner or an agenda stuffed in there with crumbs from their snack. So Seth has this wonderful strategy of using Sunday as your time that you could have this overhaul of papers and backpacks. So do you want to share with us your strategy for that?
Yeah, so I work mostly with middle, high school, and college kids, but this works perfectly for elementary kids as well. Now, elementary kids often don't have a lot of stuff in their backpack, but some of them do. But basically, what's happening is that even at a young age, what we're trying to do is teach the skill of organization. And one of the misunderstandings is that you see a class, let's say we're looking at a 5th grade class, and you have a bunch of kids in there that have pretty decent organization. And then if your child struggles with organization, the idea is that they're not trying hard enough, or they just must not care about it, or whatever. But the fact is that these kids, if they're in 5th grade, for the last several years, have not been consciously trying to build organizational habits, and nobody has shown them consciously. So the other kids who have decent organization, they've actually spent plenty of time watching others and learning from watching others how they organize and developing little systems. But for a lot of kids who struggle with the executive function, they've been oblivious to it all these years. And now they're expected to do this. And we don't sort of notice that they have spent, a lot of these kids have spent multiple minutes that have added up over the years to build their skills. These kids have it. So what I recommend, I say there are overhaulers and maintainers. Overhaulers are kids who tend to overhaul systems every once in a while, but it's random and it's not frequent enough. Maintainers are kids who maintain systems really well. They might make their bed without having to be bugged about it. They might put their dishes in the sink without having to be bugged about it. They get in the habit of brushing their teeth. They don't need to be reminded. These are kids who maintain systems pretty well. Also, their backpacks. And some of these kids, and the kids that I work with, tend to be what I call overhaulers, where they just are not good at maintaining the systems yet. So we have to teach them to do that. And what I do is I will do a weekly overhaul with my kid on their systems. One of the systems is the backpack. We pull everything out of the backpack. We reorganize every single paper. And I do this probably every week or two, even with middle, high school, and college kids. So they're not doing it perfectly all the time. And when we do the overhauls regularly, there's a few things out of place, but it's manageable. And these kids can figure out what's missing, what they still need to do, what can be thrown away, what needs to be prioritized. And like you said, I literally do. We'll take the backpack, we'll empty the whole thing out. We'll go outside where my office is, and we'll shake out the backpack to get all the crumbs and coins and broken pencils and stuff out. So even with college kids, and then we do a reset. So we reset everything back very intentionally, because these kids are not intentional. They're mindlessly doing things. They're trying to get you off their back or get their teacher off their back. A lot of them are just doing enough to get you to not bug them because they don't have the skill, and it's overwhelming to them. So we can passionately teach the skill of how do we make sense of this mess of stuff that you have, and do it on a very regular basis. And then we do gradual release of responsibility where they're doing more and more of it. So that's the gist of that.
Yeah, and I think that's so helpful, because so many of our kids have those challenges with, keeping track of papers and knowing when projects are due and things like that. So the other thing that might be helpful, Seth, is to talk about the pattern that you notice for the beginning of the year. And some of us teachers call that the honeymoon period, but and how you see that kind of evolving over those first few weeks.
So this pattern does apply even if you're homeschooling, if you're a Montessori, if you're a private school, if you're on a year-round schedule. You just adapt it to your situation. But here's the gist of how the pattern looks. Oftentimes, kids start off strong. Things look fine. How you doing in school? Great. Are you sure? Yeah. Are you on top of everything? Yep, I'm on top of everything. You sure? Yep, I'm sure. And then all of a sudden, in a typical semester, which is 18 weeks long in the United States, in a typical semester, 6 to 8 weeks in, they hit what's called the dip. And that is when the parents somehow are alerted that everything has fallen apart. They get a progress report, they get a call from a teacher, something happens, and they look and they go, what in the world is going on? You have 4 Fs and 3 As? That makes no sense. Like, what is happening here? So this is the dip pattern. So they're going, everything seems to be fine, and then boom, huge dip. Then they go to the next phase, which is swimming. I call swimming upstream. So now they're swimming upstream. They're digging themselves out of holes. They're dealing with missings, late works, incompletes, zeros, test corrections, and they're trying to catch up. And at that point, you got, your kid who really is working hard to catch up and your kid who's avoiding everything to catch up. Either way, it's not a good situation. And you as the parent are trying to figure out, how do we help them dig themselves out of these holes so that they don't fail their classes and what have you. And then we get to the last phase, the last 3 weeks of the semester. So I call the Hail Mary phase. And that's when not only are they doing current typical work, they're also still working on catching up. And they also have end of semester things that come out of nowhere, it seems like. What are those? Large reading assignments, I call it Pepper. Large papers, exams, projects, and reading assignments. Very long-term things at the end of the semester, all of a sudden, that require a lot of hours to do, plus their current work, plus their makeup work. It's very overwhelming. And again, kids either are really stressed and try to do it, or they're completely overwhelmed and completely avoid it, make excuses, lie, do anything and everything that they can to not deal with it because they don't know where to start. Okay. So that's the pattern. So we got sort of strong start, dip, swimming upstream, Hail Mary, and hopefully, and then the final thing about this pattern that often happens is what I call parental amnesia. And that is where the parents have a big lecture with their kid. They'll punish their kid. They'll reward their kid for the things that they reward them for, whatever. But they have a big talk over, let's say, winter break here in the States. They might have a big talk, big lecture. Okay, it's going to be different next time. Next semester, we're going to say, oh yeah, everything's going to be perfect next semester. And somehow the parents forget how bad it was until 6 to 8 weeks into the next semester. And the problem with this stuff is that the pattern does not stop itself, parents. It continues to repeat. So parents don't know what to do. Nobody trains them and says, hey, parents, guess what? This is a pattern. And if you're with some kids, particularly ones who struggle with executive function, if you're experiencing this, here are some real strategies that we can use to help these kids. Nobody does that. What we do is we do the lecture, and then parents, really, nobody has given them the tools or the understanding that this is not a matter of your kid being willful or that they don't care about school or that they're not trying. Often they're trying really hard, and often they're trying in ways we don't even see. For example, if their ears pick up on every single sound, they're trying harder than everybody else in the class just to decipher what the heck the teacher's saying, because they may have sensory issues, and auditory may be one area, right? So they might be working very hard, but they feel like nobody ever notices the efforts I am putting forth. And then they get really overwhelmed and exhausted. And then they really start to, in middle school, a lot of times, really give up and be like, why am I spending all this effort? I'm going to figure out better ways to avoid this, to cut corners, to push you away or whatever, because there's just a disconnect here.
Oh, exactly. And I want to let people know, if you want, that's not what I wanted. If you want a copy of training notes that I'll be writing up after our show today, that gives some tips from Seth and also some additional resources about executive functioning, just let me know in the chat box below if you want those notes. And I wanted to say hi to Terry, who's here from Denver. And Terry's son just started secondary school, so it's like a huge transition. And so if you have any specific questions, Terry, for Seth, I know that would be awesome, that we could go into something specific for you. So thanks for being here. And Yael is also here with us. So hey, Yael. And you were just on her show last night. And so the other thing I was thinking about is when parents look at buying planners, if there's a school agenda, like so many times those agendas look so cool because they have all this information. It's like a dictionary or encyclopedia embedded in the planner. But the reality is all of that can be just confusing and unnecessary for a lot of kids, right? So tell us how to, kind of strategize and figure out how to use that planner effectively?
Yeah, I'm very cynical about planners because I think what we are trying to do, and we lose sight of what we are trying to do. What we are trying to do is teach a young person the extremely complex skills related to developing processes for planning, for being able to accomplish goals. You have short-term planning and long-term planning and everything in between. And we are trying to build very complicated skills. How do we do it? We give them the planner. And in the inside, like a middle school planner, it has 2 or 3 pages that say how to use this planner nobody ever reads. It has a student handbook nobody ever reads. It has the hall pass, which they may or may not need. A lot of schools don't even use them. It has a periodic table, which you don't need unless you're in chemistry or you enjoy that. It has time zones with a map of the United States. It has like all this great stuff. And it has little cutesy quotes on the pages, and a lot of times they're multicolored. Look, I want my kids who struggle with executive function and hate planning and planners, I want them to have a simple, clean, clear, easy planner that is for planning. I don't want any of that clutter. I want them to learn these skills of planning. They can do that with online or wherever else. I want them to learn these skills related to planning, and we have to teach them that consciously. So there are many ways to do this, but what I want people to walk away with is there's no one size fits all. When you take your kid to the office store and they pick one because of how it looks, that's the wrong reason to pick a planner. You pick it because, like, you want to ask your kid, how are you going to use that? How will you use these boxes? Will you use these lines? How will you know when you have a test? Like, ask them, see what they say. And I don't even care if the kid has the right answer. I care that they're thinking. Okay. And so I don't want them focused on, oh, this one looks cool, but I want them focused on, oh yeah, I like the boxes this way because of this. Now they may be totally wrong. They may buy one, you may spend $30 on a stupid little piece of 20 papers because they're expensive. But that is not a bad investment if the kid hates it after a couple weeks, but they learn what they like and don't like and can choose a better one or what have you. There's a lot to this issue, but right. The point is there's no one size fits all. It's not cookie cutter. You don't give 1,000 kids the same planner and expect that it's going to work. These kids need to be taught skills of planning. Again, like I said before, for kids who don't organize well, those kids are the same kid, and they need to be taught the skills of that. Same thing here. These other kids who have decent executive function, they've been working for years learning little micro skills for planning that have added up. And there's been a snowball effect. And then when they're in 5th grade and they have a real planner or 6th grade, it looks like they're trying harder than everybody else, than the kids who struggle.
Right.
They're not. They've been building skills that these kids haven't. So now we have to teach these skills to these kids in a very patient and compassionate and loving and kind way. These are skills. So we start where they're at. Hey, can you at least write down 2 or 3 things or however you want to do it, but it has to be palatable, or else they're going to reject it. So you have to set planner goals. Can you write 1 thing in your planner tonight? That might be a goal for your kid. Can you write 3? Can you write a little more detail? Do you know how to use shorthand? Do you want to color code that?
Yeah, and I think what we'll do is, if you want the training notes, I can give you specific links to Seth's YouTube videos that go with each of these topics. So I'll give you a link for a longer video that he's done about using planners and other things. So
I send out a blog every week of my life on Sunday.
Yes. And so if they go to your website, then they can sign up for the blog. And usually, isn't it Sunday nights when you do like
Sundays? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you'll be able to get so much ongoing information. And we've had other people join us live. Thanks for coming in. We have a few more minutes because Seth has a million things to do.
I know, yeah, sorry guys.
He has a planner for the executive function online summit. He's got to get his task done. Because that's a huge thing that he's doing. So let's talk about it. It starts tomorrow morning, Friday morning. You're going to have about 8 different speakers. Parents can choose who they think is going to be most helpful for their situation and their child. Saturday, there'll be 8 more speakers. Sunday, there'll be about 8 more speakers. It's totally free for parents, and it's just going to be awesome. I went ahead and bought an access pass, which is where you can then get the replays for at least a year. And so this link will take you to register, but then also just to let you know, if you do buy the access pass, I get a small commission to help publicize it. But the whole 3-day summit is totally free. So go use this link. I put it in the comments. Make sure you register. It will be starting tomorrow at 8 a.m. Mountain Time. But Seth, what else would you like us to know about the awesome summit?
Well, Charmaine, I want people to really understand that you providing this type of a service to people is cool, and it just takes somebody who's taken the time to learn this stuff and put stuff out to the world to be helpful. And I just appreciate you caring about people in your work to do stuff like this. I know making videos and learning the tech behind this is a big undertaking. So thank you for the way you show up in the world.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I think what we could end on is, I'm looking for my little props, is that we want to make sure for every red flag and for every kind of negative thing that we say to our kids, that we want to make sure we have at least 3 positives, right? So do you want to tell us?
Yeah, I talk about the 3-to-1 rule, and it doesn't matter if it's 3-to-1 proportion of positives to negatives or perceived negatives, but our kids, a lot of them really do feel like nobody ever notices what I'm doing right. Okay. And they need to be seen. And the most important thing to me in the world is healthy and securely attached relationships. So regardless of what your child's struggles are or what your struggles are, what you want to do is build healthier and healthier relationships with your kid. And it's called attachment theory. And what one of the core concepts of healthy attachment is that we feel like the person we're in relationship with, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a child, whether it's coworkers, whether it's friends. If you think about your best friend in the world, the reason your best friend is your best friend is because you feel like they see you, they understand you, they hear you, they get you. And we want our kids to feel like, hey, my parents get me. They see me, they understand me. And these kids often don't feel like that. And so relationship dynamics are very challenging sometimes, but that's what we're working towards, is how do we feel seen and understood by our kids? Do we feel like they don't even get us? And do they feel? So anyhow, the 3-to-1 rule is just a great way to really hold space for someone and see them and really focus on, because we're so used to looking at, oh, that's not right. That's not right. Oh, you didn't do that right. Oh, you forgot that. Oh, you missed this. And we're so focused in our culture on these little details of what's not right. And these kids need to be seen for their effort, what they're trying to do and what they did do right. So I literally will, if I'm working with a new kiddo, maybe they're really resistant, but they want help, I will really, I do this throughout my whole practice, but really spend a lot of time saying, hey, just like noticing little things. Like the other day I had a kid in the office, I was like, hey, you have pretty cool handwriting, because it looked like it was out of a comic book. Nobody really says that to us very often, but just acknowledge, hey, that looks cool. Like, it's that simple. But I'm flooding them with them. As much if we were to count how many negatives we say in a week and tally that up with the positives, or if we were to ask them, hey kiddo, I want to ask you a serious question. How do you think that I'm too negative or not? A lot of them will be like, yeah, you're too negative. If you really want to know the truth. And then if you say, well, tell me more, what's that like? And you really try to understand that and ask them, well, how would you like me to see the positives? And ask them. And then start building that into your daily conversation a lot more than you think you need to, because it goes a long way.
Right. And that's so funny, because I tell parents the 3 R's of advocacy are relationships. Nice. And it's just, that goes with our kids. And like you said, any humans that we have connections with, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to quickly bring up Terry, because she was saying that she was, so Terry, I'm not sure it's you or your grandson was feeling overwhelmed, started yesterday, just found out he didn't understand the sign-up schedule for a presentation. He made everything due today, thinking it was going to be next week. She said, I haven't seen the planner from school yet. I told him not to write in it until we look at Seth's planner video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, in that sort of a situation, like you said, with the relationship, there's something called co-regulation. So with the relationship, first of all, well, with the relationship and co-regulation, what we want to do as the adult is in our nervous system. Now, as the parent, we might be anxious as heck, going, "Oh my gosh, what's the consequence of this?" But with our kid, we really want to be that stable rock force and be like, "It's okay, kiddo. We got this. We'll figure it out. I'll email your teacher and we'll figure it out." Now, depending on the age, your kid might say, "Don't email my teacher," if it's a middle schooler. So you might not tell them that, but you need clarity. But you want to be that, your nervous system you want regulated for your kid, where you say, "It's all right. We'll figure it out. Don't worry." And then email the teacher, say, "Hey, we didn't understand." And a compassionate teacher would be like, "Okay, cool. We'll fix that." And a teacher that's not compassionate is going to give you trouble, and then you know what you're in for the year, and you got to start working on that, as you know, as an advocate. But yeah. And
I think that will help Terry once you see his planner or that video. And Renee is from Illinois, and she said she started organizing in kindergarten with the color block schedule, a subject with a picture, check marks when the activity is over, introducing the folder system, Math Center is blue. And yeah, so all of that, I think, are excellent ways to make sure that, that's another tip. And I'll put it the video.
That's really good, because it sounds like they really build, right. And that's what we have to do.
Right.
So it's and we're not worried about if they get every skill the right way, but that structure is a great. It provides a lot of safety and security. Believe it or not, just that structure, that they can really depend on the structure.
Well, thank you so much, Seth, for being here. I will again get notes out to everybody, and I'll put the link in again. It's in the comments, but I'll put it up in the main part of the post.
Yeah, click the link, join the summit. We're starting tomorrow. It's 3 days. It's a no-brainer. It's free. You can buy it if you want, but you can come for 3 days for free. There's no reason not to. These experts are amazing.
Yes. So thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon, and I'll see you on video tomorrow.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.